Hey guys, my name is Octoman and today I want to go into basic AI scripting. Basic AI scripting basically means I want to make sure that my monsters can move away from spawn points and wander around and maybe later on go into aggro mode and attack the player. They may be or might be able to avoid other monsters, and maybe I can clamp them later on somehow in a specific area, and when they leave the area then they go back, or they just leave the zone, get destroyed and will be respawned on any random position which is free. So the spawning stuff is not what I'm going to go into right now, so since I have a spawning video already, so you may want to check this one out. And let's I show you what the monster is currently doing. Basically, he's has an idle state or idle animation and a walk animation, and after a given amount of time he will just wander around by creating a small waypoint. And once he reaching the waypoint, he will set to the idle state, and then again he will think about what will I do next. Also, you can see he is rotating into the right direction, a bit slow, but maybe later I go and fix this one, or while I rewrite the code. And that's what we are going after right now. So we checked several states in which that monster can be, and if I am just duplicate those guys, then you can see all of that 4 guys will act differently. The first seconds maybe not, but as you can see, those 2 guys walk somewhere, this guy do so you can hoard a lot of monsters on the same spot. They will check where to go, and they all create their own waypoints. They do their own stuff on their own. As I said, sometimes you may need to go over and somehow clamp those guys inside of the playfield or inside of their spawn field or whatever. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So I will build all that animation stuff. I will show you all that things in the next several minutes, and I will also show you how to write that wander around and idle things like in the most MMO RPGs, and how to handle all that stuff, which isn't big. So let's get started and create a new scene. I don't save this one because I didn't make any changes except that copies. And what I go over at first is I want a ground, and then I go over and implement all the other things. For my ground, I go and use a cube. And since cubes are 1 unit big and the center point or the pivot point is in the middle of the cube, I need to decrease the height or the position by 0.5. So as you can see, it's now on the grid is that plane. Basically that plane doesn't really matter since I don't use any nav mesh agent or anything else. I just want to make sure that when I place my monsters, they won't stick into the ground. You can also use terrains and stuff. You decide what you want to do. And now I go over and scale this one a bit out, so I have a small area where I can work with. So this is my area right now, and since it's too bright, I will go and add the brown material. You can create your own. It isn't too big and too much. Also, my monster didn't use gravity, but so you have the ability to do so you can use terrain way better and stuff. So now I have the cube, which I say this one is a ground, and now I implement my little 3D model. And I already made a prefab out of this, but I want to go over and show you what to do if you import your package or import your monster, all that things you have to do. So first thing is you want to place this guy on your screen somewhere. And as you can see, I call this guy Marin because he is also available in the asset store under that name. Once you import that guy, you have to do several things. You need to add some components on him to make sure that he is working as the way he has to do or has to be. The thing I have done already is I already made two animations, so the move animation and the idle animation, and made them loop time so they can loop when they need to. And in the animator window I can just go over and do all that transition stuff just from inside of that, of that Marin, of that guy. Okay, so basically he cannot do anything, so he needs an animator controller. You can go into your animations folder and create your own by just right-clicking, create, and animator controller. I already have this animator controller, so I don't go over this right now since this should be some basics, yeah. So let's see, here I have my Marin AC, which is a Marin animation controller. I just drag this one inside of the animator component, and now I can set root motion and so on. And in the animator window, I already set it up two things. So the basic animation will be the idle animation. If this is not for you, you can say, okay, make this as a default state. How to add animations is pretty simple. Go into your FBX file. Oh, whoops, that's not what I wanted. I need to drag this one out once again. Go into your FBX file, and since you have set up all that animations already, and you can press that little arrow, there are the animations. You just need to drag them inside the animator component, like so. And then you can use this one anyway, you can delete this and so on. Then make sure that you have some transitions, which is, I use isMoving as a Boolean variable, or actually a parameter. So if you don't have any Boolean parameters in here, you just select that little plus over there and say, okay, create a new Boolean. Then you name that Boolean, and later on for the animation stuff, you need that Boolean to make that transitions, or basically that transitions work, or the changes between the animations. So okay, so when I'm in, or when Marin is in idle state and isMoving is true, which is a condition over here, you can add conditions on the plus over there. Then when it's true, then we'll go and play the movement animation, and same back. If isMoving is false, then go back to the idle animation. That's it. To create a transition, just right click and say right click the one you want to create the transition from to. So from this, make transition, and then a small arrow will be here, and then you can just create the transition by clicking the other one. That's it for all the animator stuff. Nothing else currently is needed, since I don't have any attack stuff in here, just the animations itself. So basically I can go over and say, okay, I want to apply the root motion, and what I also want to make sure is that I have a prefab out of that monster, or out of that. So every time I change anything, I just need to apply all changes to the prefab. So since I don't have anything big made in here, just some colliders and stuff, I just go over and delete this prefab, which I created already. So how do I create a prefab? It's pretty simple. Once you're done with that basic setup, and the guy has a Marin, an animation controller, and root motion attached, sometimes it does not need, or it isn't needed to apply the root motion. So what you can do is just drag this this game object into your folder where all your prefabs are in. So every time I change something in scene on that Marin, I need to apply the changes to the prefab. So every copy of that prefab will hold the same information, the same scripts, the same rigid body components and all the other things you add to that small guy. So let's get started. The first thing is we need a rigid body component over here without any gravity. So I can use colliders and triggers. And also another physics component, which will be a capsule collider. Since it's too big, because my Marin is kind of small, I need to fix some things. So you can go over here and select Edit Collider and just decrease. Decrease the outer radius. So it's here, and we need to decrease the height too. And also, since the center is somewhere else, we just need to apply this and make sure that everything works properly. So maybe we need to decrease this one. This is only needed when you're using gravity later on. Okay, that's too much. So this works pretty nice. As you can see, he's not 100% at 0. Or 100% on that plane. Or is he? Oh yeah, he is. That's okay. So now I have the rigid body on it and the capsule collider. And the capsule collider will be a trigger. Can also be just a normal collider. It doesn't really matter. Not for now. And then I need to apply those. So everything went from darkish black or fat black to normal text. So every changes are saved into the prefab. So as you can see, here are every component I just created in here. If I make a change, then this will be big, like bold in text, and then you again need to apply this to make sure that the prefab gets all the information. If you make any error, you can also revert changes from the prefab to the object which is in scene. Okay, so let's check what our Marin can do currently. As you can see, he applies the root motion, which is just the idle state, and you can also see that in the animator window. And when I just say, okay, it's moving, then he should go and make that walk or hopping animation. Again, back, he should go back into the idle state. So once you have done or set up all your animation states and all the other stuff, we can basically go and start the script. I write in C# script. I already wrote the script before, but I want to go for you and create this from scratch. So let's see, somewhere I had an enemy AI. So in here I'm going to create a new Marin underscore, I think this is called movement, so I call this one move. Basically all what I want to do is I just want to move Marin at first and check in which state he is, and depending on the state I want him to do the stuff he has to do. Okay, so you can also go over and rotate him to see it better in the camera. Again, he is a bit small, so just I go and use the local. Where's my camera? There's the camera. Okay. Basically, it doesn't really matter in which direction he's going to look. Make sure that your colliders or your character basically the capsule collider doesn't really matter. You can say in which direction he the collider should look. Anyway, so now we set up Marin, so now we can go over and script all that stuff. So I open up MonoDevelop and we'll be back in a second. So back again. What we want to go and make sure, of course, is we want to add the script to Marin itself and apply that to the prefab. Then go back and let's go and start. What we want, since I already said, we want to use some states which Marin is in, we create an enum. This is going to be a public enum, so we can use this in the inspector on the right side, and this enum is called movement states. So, and those movement states can be idle, walking. I just combine them all in here, and you can also do anything else, maybe like sleeping. Sleeping is nothing we are caring about right now. I just want to show you that you can add any or as much movement states or states he can do and can be in, and those states we later on use to to decide what he has to do. The next thing is, since we can't use the enums like that, we now just need to create a class or I don't know how this is called, to make sure that we are able to compare the states between movement states and its current state. And I don't really know how this is called. And I go over and make this one public too, so it's public, then it's of type movement state, and this also needs a name, which is movement I don't know, movement type. And now we can compare movement type with the current movement states. We need that to see differences. I'm going to save this one and return to Unity and check everything out. So normally we should see, there we go. There's a movement type. And the movement type means I can now switch in between all those three states, like walking, sleeping, idling. And Marin can see, okay, when he has to idle, then he just makes nothing. When he is in the walking state or in the walking type or movement type of walking, then he do all the animation stuff and so on and so forth. The next thing is we need some variables for walking around, which is which should have which every monster should have is just speed or walk speed. So this is going to be private, so I just create a float speed, and at first I go over and use 2.0f, don't forget that over here. And what you also want or need is maybe a rotation speed. So rotate, just let me call this rotate speed equals maybe the same. Later on we will fix the values once we are going over all the other stuff. And we need some we need a game object which has to be public, and this game object is going to be our waypoint, or basically our waypoint. So this is what we create in in runtime when Marin is go into the walking state. Also, since we can't just use a waypoint like that, we need another game object which we call WP, which will our instantiated waypoint later on. I will show you that once we are on that point. Then we need two float variables, which is the min and the max distance, min distance for the waypoint instantiation. So min distance maybe as -2.0. Depending on how big your units are, you might want, or your monsters are, and so on, you might want to increase or decrease that values. and this is going to be 2. So we walk basically, or can instantiate in a square around Marin, also at the spot where Marin currently is. So if you want to do it different, then you can use some square roots and stuff to use circle things, but the player won't see that he is only walking in a square around him. The player won't see that. Okay, we need start later on for instantiate or initiate the animator component. So we already just call this one anim. So we can go, and that's the first thing, we can get the component out of Marin, and this is going to be the animator component. Somehow my animator, and those brackets over here. So we can and we need to say anim equals get component animator. So we can later on change the animation states by the boolean value of, or the boolean variable is walking or is moving. Okay, also we need a boolean variable for the waypoint. So if the waypoint is set already, then we just create a bool. I call this one wp equals false. So no waypoint is set already. So we can say we don't need to make the waypoint, or actually we can say there is no waypoint active actually, so you can go and create one. So, and we set this from 2 to false and false to true once the waypoint is deleted and so on. Okay, so let's move that guy. First, we need to create the waypoint, and then we need to move him to that point and also do the rotation stuff. So at first, let's go and create the waypoint in a square around him, and then go forward from that point. And don't forget to save while you're working around. At first we need to create a new function, and I call this one create waypoint. So you know you need to waypoint. Okay, and in here we are calculating the waypoint where it could be, on which position in the world space around Marin. So first we create the float variable, float, and we call this one distance x, and the same we're going to do with the distance z later on. Float distance z, and this will also be something. Okay, so what is float x distance? The float x distance is the distance between Marin and the calculated, or basically you will calculate a waypoint between those points. So we take our current x position, which is transform dot position dot x. So this is Marin's position, and we add a random number, which is a random range actually, random dot range, and we can add a range to that x position, and that's where min distance and max distance come in. So in here we will take min distance and max distance at the same time. So make sure you use float variables, since integer variables need to or don't use the last integer number inside, so you need to make the integer 1 unit bigger. Also, float variables are since they have comma values, you can use them very nicely. Okay, and the same we are going to do with the z value. There we go. So and we need to change to that. So what we do, if we have a minus value over here, it will be plus minus a random range number, and so it will be in the negative direction. And if we are going to have a plus, plus and plus will stay plus, so it will be in the positive direction. And that we're going into using into a into a square. So this is going to be a square. So the next thing is, I only want to do this when wayp, which is the Boolean variable I was talking about, is not true. So it's false. That's when that's where I do. You can also write in here equals false if you don't know that. Also, the shorter way for this is just make that sign over there. Okay, and we also need some brackets over here. Well, basically we don't need those brackets, but there will be more stuff inside. And also, once we have calculated all that things, we want to set wayp to true. So it cannot be the this cannot be the same thing. Or actually, there will be only waypoint for that for Marin. Okay, so since we can't see that, we need to instantiate that waypoint. So this is where WP comes in handy. WP will store the information of that created game object, and we can use WP later on for that, let's say for the colliders. Yeah, for the colliders. So what we want to instantiate is, we want to instantiate the waypoint. And where will we want to, or where do we want to instantiate that waypoint? And in here we say a new vector3, and that vector3 holds three distances. The first distance is x, or distance x, which we calculated before. The 0 or the y value will be 0, since we don't use that value. We could also say transform.position dot y, and the distance z will be just, or z will be the distance z, of course. And since we also need the rotation, we say just no, we need to start this with a big Q, quaternion dot identity. So this will be the stored rotation inside of the prefab of the waypoint. So we create the waypoint in just a second. And what we also want to make sure is that we instantiate this guy as a game object. Otherwise we would get an error, since we just use a game object variable in here. So we need to make sure that we create this as a game object. Okay, so let's save this and return to Unity and see if we get everything fine in here. You will get that yellow signs in here just because we didn't use all of their variables. And in here, in that waypoint, we need to drag our prefab from the waypoint. I already made one inside of that monster thing, and basically that prefab is just a sphere. No, just let me tell you this a bit different, because I changed a bit stuff. To make that waypoint, create an empty game object as you have right now here, and call this one waypoint. Then go in your hierarchy, right click and create a 3D object called, or a sphere, and just decrease its size to whatever you need. Set the values of the waypoint to everything to 0, so it will be zeroed out. And don't make it too big, because the collider of the sphere will be too big. So I go over and reduce the size a bit more, maybe like this. So now you have already a waypoint, which is an empty game object, and a sphere. Basically, later on we go and disable the mesh renderer, so the player won't see all that waypoint stuff, and that sphere collider could be disabled, and we add a sphere collider instead to that waypoint over here. So the sphere is just for now, will be just our visible stuff. Later on we can just go over and delete the sphere. I just want to make sure that all the components are visible again. And what I go over now is I decrease the collider like so, and we set this one to trigger, so we don't collide or go and be stuck onto that and so on. Just make sure this is like that. And again, once you're done with that, drag that waypoint prefab into your prefab folder, so you have this the whole time and can use that like so. And also once you're done, I'm going to delete this one once again, since I have mine already here. Go into your monster, or I go into my Marin, and drag the waypoint prefab inside of the waypoint game object slot and apply that to the prefab. So the next thing is the basic state should be the idle state over here. So again, apply that to the prefab. You can later on just make a shuffle thing when the game starts or whatever, so they are all already in a different state and do their stuff. Okay, so let's test if this is going to work. So I cannot trigger this one. I just need to call the function. Store this. So once we start, unexpected symbol. Okay, I forgot this. Store or save this again. Okay, there we go. He created already the first waypoint. He did that in any on any random position. I can repeat that step the whole time right now. Again, now it's there. So you can see it randomly creates in that in that square, in that given distance, and create that waypoint. So basically the create waypoint stuff is done. So now we just need to move to that waypoint. We need to make all that things, or that movement thing. I'm sure I need to do that in the update function. So what we need to check at first, in which movement state is Marin. So if he is in if the movement type equals movement state dot walking, then call that function create waypoint and do the rest. If he is in the idle state, again movement type equals movement state. I'm not 100% sure if this is the right way, but I think is idle. Then go over and do nothing for now. Later on we just set waypoints around. So if we change his state, I'm going to check if I have any typos. Nope. Okay, so when we change the state of him right now, nope, this guy. If we change that guy to walking, as you can see, he already starts to create that waypoint. But he only does that once, since we say, okay, we only do that when waypoint is false. And now we need to move him to that with speed and rotation speed, of course. So let's check this out. Okay, and what I noticed is before we start the actual moving, we can also use that movement type checking, since it's working already, and set the animation states already. So we go to anim dot, and we are here we have a set bool, and since we have a boolean variable inside, we can just say, okay, is moving, and set is moving to the state we want him to be, and this is going to be true. Oh yeah, and the line, and the same, we copy this stuff over here and say, okay, if we are in idle state, is moving equals false. So we can say or see all the animations already. So, and to move him, we still use the we could use all stuff and use it in the update function. We can also write another function for just the movement to keep the code a bit cleaner. Yeah, let's do that. So if wayp, so if it's true, so we have any waypoint already in the scene, or that wayp from that instance of that object is existing, then we can say, okay, move. Nope. Okay, I don't have the function, so we need to create this. Void move. Okay. And in here we call move once we are in that. I'm not 100% sure if this is working, but basically it should, because the function is called the whole time, or the whole time wayp is true. So if this is true, we need to move the Marin from his current position to the waypoint position, which is wayp or wp. So what we do is we do transform.position, transform.move towards, I think, transform.position equals, and then we need to say, okay, vector 3.move towards, so we move towards a point, as you can see, from the current position to the target to the position, and then here we can say max distance delta can also be speed, and time.delta time. So at first we say transform.position, which is the start position. Then we want wp.transform.position, and then we want to say, okay, by with the speed of our set speed times time.delta time, delta time. So we make sure on every or on any system the time value has the same speed, or the speed value is always the same no matter on which system you are. So let's test this out. So we go here and set to walk, and now you have seen he was setting the animation to walk, and he was moving to the waypoint. Pretty nice. So what we need also is we need the rotation, and also we need to say, change the stuff later on that he goes back to the right state. So let's create the rotation variable. I just write in here var rotation, which is just a temporary variable, and this rotation is a quaternion.look rotation, and we want to look from the waypoint.transform.position, I think, to, that means we need to decrease or say minus the current position. Oh no, it's not. I think it's a rotation. Let me just check this in a second. Minus transform dot rotation. I'm not 100% sure really. We need to check this one out in a second. Okay, it's not rotation, it's yeah, it's position. Okay, so we look from our position, or basically from the waypoint position to our current transform position, and that's what we check out at first. Oh no, we cannot check because we need to read that information. So transform dot rotation. Oops. That's, I think it's rotate. Give me a second. Yeah, it's rotation. Equals, and here we again use quaternion dot slurp, which will be a smooth rotation actually, and then you can see we do the quaternion from, to, and in which time. And so we rotate from our current rotation, I believe. So transform dot rotation to the waypoint rotation, I think. Yeah, that is the rotation we already calculated in here. So transform rotation, and here again rotation, which is calculated already, and then we use the rotate speed. Why is it not in the list? Rotate speed. I don't know why it's not in there. Times time dot delta time again. So now the Marin should rotate in the right direction. Let's just build this one and check if everything is okay. So we change his state at first to walking. Then he walks there. Okay. He rotated there some, but I think I have an error. Look rotation, viewing vector 0. Let me check this one. Okay, that small information basically just happens when Marin is on the same spot as a waypoint is. So, and we don't finish the action and set him back to the idle state once he's on that position. So that's what we need to do next, or basically before he actually moved that point. And I think that is what the problem causes. So what we need next is we need to go over and destroy the waypoint when Marin is actually hitting that waypoint. And that's pretty easily done by using a trigger. So OntriggerEnter. We can also say OntriggerStay, so he will actually have a bit more. And we want the type of collider, and at first I'm going to, I think I use WP for this, yeah. So of type collider in the game object WP, which we were instantiating before. And once he's hitting that collider, we want to do 3 things. At first we want to destroy the collider or the game object, which should be Waypoint. If it's not, then it's WP. So we want to destroy the waypoint. What we also want is we want to set wayp, which is our boolean variable, to make sure he is or he can actually create waypoints. We set this one to false, so there will be no waypoint available in the scene, or basically not for that instance of the game object. And we also want to set the state, the movement state or movement type actually, back to movement state dot idle. So yeah, so he will not keep being in the walking state, because yeah, he just hit his waypoint, or the point he had to go over, and then he just fall back in idle. And let's test this out. So by hand I again choose walking. He walks there. He's pretty fast, so I need to decrease a bit the speed. But as you can see, he say destroying assets is not permitted to avoid data loss. As you can see, he still do all that stuff, but all the waypoints are still in the scene, and I want to avoid that. So I think I need instant except using destroy the waypoint itself, or the game object waypoint, we go over and destroy WP, which is the instantiated game object. So test this out once again. Walking. No, the waypoint, oh, he didn't even reach it. That's a bit strange. Okay, where's the waypoint? The waypoint is somewhere there. But it's not, or didn't got deleted. So let me check why the error happens. Oh, okay. The collider we are checking is not from WP. We need to check the collider from the waypoint, or the game object waypoint, which is this one. Because this game object has the actual collider. The game object WP does not have that information of that collider. So we check the waypoint collider and destroy the instantiated object. That's it. So again, back to the scene. So select him. No, not that. Go to walking, and now you can see he was hopping around once, and he destroyed the game object, the waypoint. So the next thing is the speed is a bit too high, so I decrease the speed to maybe 0.4. Oops, 0.4. Depending on your games or your creatures and your characters, you might want to change all that speed variables. Okay, that's strange. Let's check this again. Okay, that's weird. He didn't even made it to the point. To fix the problem with the waypoints that the Marin cannot reach that waypoint, we can fix this by just one line of code, and we use the tag system for this. So we go to our prefabs folder in our waypoint, and in here I already have that tag. So basically, or normally, this one is untagged, or that game object is untagged. So go here, add a new tag, and write in waypoint. And then if you don't have this inside of that list, like so, just select the +1 and write in waypoint. So we need, or we use that tag to know if the waypoint is tagged by that, and then we can select waypoint out of the list. So make sure that the waypoint is tagged with the waypoint tag. Then let's go to the script, and in the OntriggerEnter function we write just a small if loop or if statement. So if the waypoint we are hitting, or the waypoint's collider we are hitting, has the tag waypoint, we need to write that as a string, waypoint, only then we want to go over and destroy that waypoint and do the movement state handling. Why is that important? Because the collider waypoint could, or in my case, it was the ground, or sometimes it gave back the ground, which is a cube, and then that's why it stopped. So it hits or hitted the cube, the ground cube, and that wasn't what we want. We just want to make sure that the waypoint has the tag waypoint, and only if it's so, then the stuff is going to happen. So let's save that and test it out once again. There we go. And now it's pretty much working the whole time. So he will always walk until he reaches the waypoint and only deletes that stuff or that waypoint if that is tagged. Since this is an AI, we don't want him to make or the player shouldn't just switch around idle states, so we want to make sure that he thinks about the stuff on his own. So that means we want to, after a given amount of time, we want him to think, will I stay in idle state or will I go into walking state? And that's what we go, and this is the AI thing. We want him to manage on his own. So we say we create, for that I create an IEnumerator, because IEnumerator can wait for seconds while it's still running, and while it is running and so on and so forth, it can do several things at the same amount of time, but won't be in the update function. So that's where this guy is this is handy. And I call this IEnumerator choose action. You can later on add stuff into that for him to think about. So basically we just at first say while it's true, so while this IEnumerator runs, we want to do stuff. And the first most important one is we want to wait for a while. And this is written like yield return a new wait for seconds, and we want him to think about that maybe 3 seconds. We want him to wait, or basically wait 3 seconds before he chooses a new action. If the time is over, I want to check, is there a waypoint or is there no? If there is no waypoint already in the scene, so wayp is not true, then you can check the action, the next action, or choose the next action he has to do. So we have 2 actions, so I go and create a small integer variable over here. Just call it, I don't know, I just call this num, because I want him just to get, or I want him to dice a number between 0 and 2. Since we have 2 actions, I can decide between a number of 0 and 1. The problem with that random.range is that he only uses 0 and 1, but he will never be 2. So if you have 3 actions, you need to make sure that you have a 3 on here instead of a 2. So I have only 2 actions, so this here needs to be a 2. So 0 is a number, and 1 is a number, and 2 will never ever be reached. So I want him to say, okay, if there's no waypoint, just calculate any number between 0 and 1. And if num equals is 0, 100% 0, then I want to say the animation state or the movement type state is idle. So movement type equals movement states idle. Whoops. Why is that thing there? Okay. And so this way I just set this state if the calculated or the diced random number is 0. Else if you can later on use as much as you want. Else if it is 1. Not sure if else if is really needed here, but if we have so much states, he might get confused. So we want to check if he's walking and idling, and since we can also use another number, we can also say he's sleeping. If you need that one, I added that, so let's just add this one in here. We don't need that. So if the number is 2, then copy all that and say that state is going to be sleeping. So if you want to use this one later on or anything else, other states, you can put them all under that and can use them at the same amount of time. So he will choose whichever state he is in, and whichever state he has, he will do all that stuff which is in the states calculated or basically used in the update function. So he will check the states of all time, and the enumerator won't be in the update function the whole time. And you can also right now decrease it to 2 or 1, however how fast you want him to think about all of that things. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Doesn't seem so. So let's save this script. I better go and this needs to be like so. Okay, then let's test out our AI. So I play, and now he should do whatever he wants to do. He starts in the idle state, since we set it this one to idle. Oh, we forgot one small thing. We need to start the coroutine. And you can maybe it's better to get the animator component in the awake function, and in the void start we go and start the coroutine. So we start coroutine, and this is choose action. If this is not working as you expect it to do, then you need to write the string name of the action instead of that. But this way you can send in anything you need in the coroutine. So again, let's go and test this out. So every second he will check in what state he is. Then he walk around. Now he's idle, sleeping, walking, idling. You can see that in the inspector. Depending on this, the range he needs to walk around, he will walk until he reaches a point, and then he goes back automatically in idle state. Then he calculates a new one. So 1 hour, 1 hour we have walked or worked around and all that AI stuff. So now he can think on its own. He has 3 states to go through. He can handle his waypoints and can delete them and can walk around and wander around until he gets attacked. But this is another episode of Unity programming. If you are using several, like, I don't know, 20 Marins in your scene or 20 monsters in your scene, they will ignore all the other waypoints. I'm going to show you that pretty quick. Gonna duplicate them like so, and maybe move them all back a bit. Okay, this guy too. So now we can test out how they all are moving, and now you can see they are colliding with other waypoints, but they ignore them because this is not the waypoint they have instantiated. So as you can see, they all do their own stuff randomly, walk around, do sleeping and so on. The only thing is, as you can see on this spot, they don't avoid each other, but this is what we don't want to handle in this video. So if you like Marin, you can again purchase him in the asset store. He has way more animations as I have shown you right now, so you can use this guy in your game or everywhere you want. For that purchase, you can add me on Twitter if you want to. I'm gonna send all the links and stuff under the video, so you can follow me wherever you want. That's it. So if you like that video, just thumb it up, rate it, and also write me any questions in the comments, also, or leave me a personal message by the YouTube messaging system, and so on and so forth. I hope you learned about you learned something about everything, how basic AI is going to work, what is needed to make stuff work on its own. So that's it for me, and for now, see you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.